Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for stopping by and tuning in to tonight's weekly Intel report for the week of March 8th, 2023. We have a lot of news to cover this evening. We didn't have our normal weekly report last week, but we'll be making up for it this week. We're going to be going through basically the last 7 to 14 days worth of news here from around the globe, covering everything going on in Ukraine, Russia, down in the South Pacific with China and Taiwan. We'll also be covering some North Korea news, some news out of Georgia, Moldova, as well as a variety of other topics this evening. I have many breaking news stories coming at us this evening. We'll get into those in just a few moments here. But before that, again, I would like to just thank everybody for being here with us tonight. Again, it's around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the East Coast of the United States. To wherever you're tuning in from this evening, again, welcome to the stream. If you haven't already, hit the like button. It's the best way to get the algorithm's attention. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. It's the only way to get access to the live stream chat over on YouTube. Also, it's a really great way to support the channel. If you like this content, hit the subscribe button. Also, we want to hear from you. Leave your comments underneath the videos. Leave your comments in the live chat. We are both tuning in. We're coming to you both on Twitch and YouTube this evening, as we always dual stream to both platforms. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what you think about the ongoing events that are happening in our world today. We want to hear from you. Let us know what you think in the live chats. And, of course, at the end of the show, we'll be having a questions and answers, a little bit of a Q&A, as we always do. And I'll be answering your questions and reading your comments. So if you have any questions, maybe hold them till we do the Q&A. But by all means, join in on the live chat there. We'd all love to hear from you and have you join in the discussion. If you like this content, if you like this reporting, share this stream with your friends, your family, your colleagues. It's the best way to get this information into the hands of more people, which is every day becoming more important. It's more important now than ever that we stay informed and that we keep others informed as well with a good, non-biased source of news. We have a live poll going on our YouTube live chat this evening. If you haven't already voted in that, go ahead, head over to our YouTube live chat and vote in the poll. Tonight's poll question is, how long until the Russians take the city of Bakhmut? And I asked this question a few weeks back, but I'd like to see kind of how you guys have some of your opinions have changed. The options for that poll are 1 to 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, or that they will not take the city at all. If you guys haven't already, go ahead over there to the live chat poll, cast your vote, and towards the end of the show, when we get into our Q&A, I'll end that poll and we'll discuss the results as normal. A big shout out to Fallen Rays. Good to see you there. Miss Tiger Eye, good to see you as well. Patty Whack, good to see you. To all of the mods that are helping out in the live chats this evening across Discord, YouTube, and Twitch, thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. Rakasan, Doompie, Doug Wilson, Intuitive, nice to see you. Ukton, nice to see you as well. Doompie, good to see you. To everybody that is tuning in tonight, again, welcome guys to the stream. We're just getting started here. Before we get into the breaking news headlines, so I'm going to start tonight with breaking news headlines, and then we'll cover all of the Ukraine war main headlines, and then we'll get into the other news as we usually do. Of course, we'll still be covering our community aggregated reports as well as our open source intelligence data. We'll do that later in the show. Really quickly, though, before we get started, if you're not aware, we do have a Discord server. There's a link to that in the description beneath the stream, where you can join in on the community discussions. You can get a really good resource for up-to-date information on all sorts of global events that are going on. everything from the Ukraine war to the situation with China to right now there's a lot of people discussing the events that are unfolding in Georgia. And so, again, it's a really great resource over there for information and for discussion. Make sure you join the Discord. There's a link to that in the description below. Without further ado, we will go ahead and get right into the thick of tonight's breaking news reports. So we have a lot of, as I said, a lot of breaking news this evening. As I went on the air raid alerts all across Ukraine tonight. Basically, the entire region of Ukraine, the entire country of Ukraine is under air raid alert at this very moment in time. We had reports that cruise missiles had been launched from the Black Sea towards Ukraine. I actually have a few community aggregated reports, which I'll show you about that here shortly. About 53 minutes ago, as posted, missiles were reported over the Mykolaiv region. Explosions near Odessa were reported. Missiles were seen over the Vinnytsia region, heading towards western Ukraine. Ukrainian air defense, along the Black Sea, are working hard to intercept as many cruise missiles as they can. That was posted 50 minutes ago. So again, at this moment in time, Ukraine is under a air attack this evening, and happened right as we were coming on the air. Tonight. Our big breaking story that I was kind of leading with this evening, top U.S. intelligence officials, top U.S. spies really, are saying that Russia is now actively boosting its nuclear capabilities. So they're increasing their nuclear stockpiles. There are signs that they are basically increasing both nuclear readiness, and that they are increasing their stockpiles. They're making new nuclear weapons, and this is new information from the past few days here. So there's moves being made by Russia when it comes to their nuclear capabilities, and I'll talk about that more later in the show. On tonight's aircraft radar, we have a few interesting events that are noteworthy. Number one tracked flight right now on Flight Radar 24 tonight is Nova 61, which is a U.S. Air Force Boeing E-3B Sentry, which is currently operating a holding pattern here over Poland, right along the western border of Ukraine. They came online just about an hour or two ago, and they are, again, starting this holding pattern. When I came on the air, when I first started the stream about 20 minutes ago, they were right. In fact, actually, let's switch over to our aircraft map, and I can show you up close here. Give me one moment to get this up on screen. So as you can see here, we got our aircraft map. When I came on the air a minute ago, they were up here just starting this holding pattern, but you can see this, they're starting kind of a racetrack holding pattern here. Again, this is a Boeing E-3B Sentry. We also have our old and longtime friend Forte 10, which is up in the air over the Black Sea this evening as well. So again, for those of you that don't know, it's a Northrop Grumman RQ-4B Global Hawk unmanned aerial reconnaissance drone. So some interesting reconnaissance activity happening around Ukraine at this very hour. A couple other noteworthy flights this evening, but we can talk about those later in the show. Let's head back over to our main screen here. So again, many different breaking stories this evening. We have news about Russia. We have breaking Chinese news as well with Taiwan, which I'll get here shortly. We got a lot of breaking news out of Ukraine, including these airstrikes, which are happening right now as we speak. Plus a lot of news coming out of Bakhmut, which I'll talk about here in just a few moments. I guess without further ado, we can hop in head first here into our Ukraine main headlines. We'll just get started with our Ukraine war news for the evening. Let's head over to our battle map screen so I can show you a little bit about what's going on the ground in Ukraine. Give me one moment here to get that up on screen for you guys. Okay, we have that here. So again, the main focus of Russia's offensive actions here over the past few weeks, actually arguably over the past few months, has been centered in the east of the country, mainly around that key city of Bakhmut. They are now, again, continuing to encircle the city. I've been talking a lot about this pincer movement, which they are attempting to conduct. And you can see on the battle map here that they are beginning to have some more progress here in encircling the city. You can see kind of this formation here jutting out. That's those Russian forces as they push northward. And then up here you have Russian forces pushing down southward. And their goal here is to fully encircle the city, cutting off reinforcements, cutting off supply lines into Bakhmut and the surrounding area. So they are beginning to make a little bit of progress there, and I believe that cannot be denied now. Now, we have a lot of fresh news coming out of Bakhmut over the past 7 days here, but especially even just in the past 24 to 48 hours, we have quite a bit of information. Report from earlier today, the city of Bakhmut, again, in Ukraine's east, could fall in the next few days. This came from NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg. He said, what we see is that Russia is throwing more troops, more forces, and what Russia lacks in quality, they try to make up for in quantity. They have suffered big losses, but at the same time, we cannot rule out that Bakhmut may eventually fall in the coming days. So again, to NATO, their assessment is that Bakhmut may very well fall within the coming few days here. So again, we have that live chat poll in the YouTube live chat. If you haven't already, go ahead and let us know with your vote how long you think the city will last. The founder of the Wagner mercenary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, which we've talked about many times here on the show, who again has been leading that mercenary assault on Bakhmut, has said Russian forces now fully control the east of the city. Those claims, again, have not been independently verified. The General Staff of the Ukraine Armed Forces said in its Wednesday morning report that, quote, the enemy, despite significant losses, continues to storm the town of Bakhmut. So again, earlier, I would say maybe in 48 to 72 hours ago, there were rumors that that the east, especially when those statements came out from Yevgeny, that the east of the city was being held by mercenary forces. But now they're kind of, they've switched their terminology. They are saying Russian forces. So I expect that to be a mix between those Wagner mercenary forces and the Russian military proper that are basically making that claim there that they are holding the east of the city. In another report from today, Russia is unlikely to capture significantly more territory this year, according to the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines. She told a Senate hearing that the military will probably be unable to carry on its current level of fighting, even with the possible capture of Bakhmut. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has been accused of blocking the sharing of U.S. intelligence with the International Criminal Court about Russian war crimes in Ukraine. The Defense Department is said to be firmly opposed to using the Hague-based ICC as a means of holding Russian forces accountable for widespread war crimes on the grounds that the precedent would eventually be turned against U.S. soldiers. I have a little bit more, I have some articles and some more information that we'll kind of dive into later in the show about this report here. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky has invited top U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to visit Ukraine as doubts over support for Kyiv's war efforts simmer in Congress, particularly among conservatives. Zelensky proposed the visit in an interview with CNN. McCarthy is also slated to visit Taiwan, and I have an article that talks a little bit about that here later in the show as well. Meanwhile, Zelensky has also called for, quote, democratic success in Georgia, again, where thousands of protesters have rallied for a second day of protests against a controversial foreign agent bill reminiscent of Russian legislation used to silence both journalists and critics. There's no Ukrainian, this is a quote here, he said, there's no Ukrainian who would not wish success to our friendly Georgia. Democratic success, European success, he said that was in his evening address to the nation. We'll have more information on Georgia and that situation there here later in the show, so stay tuned for that. The U.S. obtained a warrant to seize a Boeing aircraft owned by Russian oil company Rosneft that is valued at over $25 million, the Justice Department has said in a report. The District Court for the Eastern District of New York authorized the seizure based on violations of export controls and sanctions against Russia. Meanwhile, in a visit to the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres told journalists it was, quote, critical that a deal that allows safe passage for ships carrying grain out of Ukraine across the Black Sea be renewed, with Ukraine traditionally being one of the world's largest exporters of grain. A senior UN trade official will meet Russian representatives to discuss the extension of the deal. There's been a lot of back and forth on this whole situation with grain shipments out of Ukraine since the beginning of the war. For the first, I would say 6 months or more of the war, there was not a single ship, not a single export leaving those ports, those southern ports in Ukraine. There was an agreement for a while where those grain exports were kind of resumed for a short time, and then that ended. And again, they've been trying to basically get this deal in place to allow safe passage for those ships so that they can start actually getting large quantities of that grain out of the country to destinations that need it most. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said on Wednesday he had suggested the bloc spend 1 billion euros for the joint procurement of ammunition for Ukraine and to refill their own stockpiles. Quote, I propose to mobilize another 1 billion euros. Reuters had reported that he had told the media after meeting of EU defense ministries in Stockholm, Sweden. NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg said it was still uncertain who carried out the attack on the Nord Stream gas pipelines in September of last year, and that national investigations needed to be allowed to finish. I have more information on the Nord Stream gas pipelines, which we'll talk about here later in the show as well. Meanwhile, German officials announced that they searched a ship in January that they believed may have been used to transport explosives used in that sabotage on that Nord Stream pipeline. Germany has the lead role in that investigation at this time. Intelligence reviewed by U.S. officials suggested a pro-Ukrainian group carried out the attack on the Nord Stream pipelines in 2022. The New York Times has reported there was no evidence of President Vladimir Zelensky or his top lieutenants, for that matter, were involved in those attacks, or that the perpetrators were acting at the direction of any Ukrainian government officials, said the report, citing U.S. officials. Now, again, we'll have more information on this situation with the Nord Stream pipeline later in tonight's Intel report, so stay tuned for that. So that about sums up our primary Ukraine headlines. Now, again, the main focus in the country at this time is the city of Bakhmut for the Russian forces. They are really trying to take Bakhmut. Of course, there's fighting going on in many other areas along the eastern front here, as well as in the south of the country. There's a lot of fighting occurring. And then across the country, basically the entire region is under constant threat from air bombardment, as we've seen this evening. In fact, if I go over to my alert map, which I need to get refreshed here. It seems to not be working. Here we go. This is our alert map this evening. Ukraine is absolutely lit up like a Christmas tree, to say the least, at this hour. The entire map here is red. We have explosions reported in Lviv. So media reports about explosions in Lviv, in Zhytomyr, More reports of explosions. Vinnytsia reports of explosions, multiple actually in Vinnytsia, Zaporizhia, and Kharkiv. So again, it remains to be seen if that was air defenses going to work on some of those incoming munitions, or if anything got through those air defenses. We won't know for some time here until that news starts to trickle in. Again, the entirety of Ukraine at this hour is still under air attack. Switching back over to my battle map here. So again, just to recap, the primary fighting happening around Bakhmut and that area in the east there. Donetsk seeing some very heavy fighting. Advidka and some of these other areas here are seeing quite some heavy fighting in those areas. Up kind of in the Luhansk region, we're seeing quite a bit of fighting as well. Some of these areas here you can see where the Russian forces are still pushing forward. Again, the majority of the Eastern Front here has been what you would call semi-stagnant, so to speak, when it comes to actual territorial gains by either side. However, the fighting is ongoing there, very heavy in a lot of these areas. The artillery dueling back and forth is almost constant. Missile bombardment, mortar along this frontier is almost constant. Did that just update? It looked like my alert map there might have updated and shown a few more explosions reported, but I'll wait to get some more information on that for you guys here. So next up, what we're going to do is we are going to look at some of our community aggregated reports for Ukraine for today. After we get through all of the Ukraine community aggregated reports, I'll then talk about, we'll go into some of the open source intelligence stuff, and then we're going to jump into some of the other topics we have this evening, so stay tuned for those. So we'll head over to our situation room here in our Discord server. Our first post coming from Yanni0420. This comes from OSINT Defender. This says, again, this is a verified Twitter source here. Explosions just reported in the Dnipro region at this hour. Another post here coming from same poster, different source here on Twitter. This is Factus News. Missiles are bypassing Ukrainian air defense by flying through Moldovan airspace, according to Ukrainian sources. And actually, guys, just as I'm bringing you this news, I do have confirmation here. If we head back over to our alert map, we have another explosion just reported in Kalaminsky here. Media reports about explosions. Caution. So explosions there in Kalaminsky. So they're saying that, and if we head back over to our map here, they're saying that, where's that here? They're saying that there are missiles flying over Moldovan territory to hit some of these regions here, and that could be why they're bypassing some. I mean, that, again, kind of just a theory here, unconfirmed. Basically, they're saying missiles are bypassing Ukrainian air defense by flying through Moldovan airspace. Another post here just came in from TB Sato, but I'm gonna have to get that. I'm gonna have to get that confirmed real quick. / translated. Give me 1 second here. So, okay. So yeah, we have multiple other explosions here showing up on this alert map. As of this, as I'm bringing you this report here. So explosions reported in Nikolaev. So that's what this post here says. Explosions are reported in Nikolaev. So we have many different explosions here being reported. Our alert map is... So we have another... Okay. So for Strato Kostiantiniv, again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so apologies. That city also reported explosions here, I believe. Yeah, Zhytomyr. Kyiv. Okay, so just now, Kyiv, media reports about explosions in Kyiv, so that's the capital city as well. So on the map now, we have reports 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different regions with explosions that have occurred. So again, we'll keep you updated here on these explosions, on this air attack that is ongoing in Ukraine. I'll show you the air map again, the alert map, sorry. So again, this is what the situation in Ukraine looks like right now at this very moment in time as I'm bringing you this report here. So we have explosions in many different regions reported. The entire country of Ukraine is currently under air raid alert. Everybody is seeking shelter. Another explosion just popped up here. Or was that... Hold on, I might be mistaken. So Kharkiv City, reports of explosions. So 8. We have 8 here. 8 explosions reported in 8 different regions so far. So this post coming from Digit, this was at 6:08 p.m., so just a few hours ago. It says here, this came from Ukraine front lines. They say now 10 Russian strategic bombers near the missile launch zone now. So this was about 2 hours ago. So before all of these attacks started, again, 10 Russian strategic bombers were near the missile launch zone. That was reported again from Ukraine front line. Okay, so we have another explosion here in Ternopil coming in. SJS 420 asks, do they usually get explosions that far west? Well, it's not unheard of. There are strikes that far in the west of the country. This is definitely a pretty big attack here, I believe, that is occurring here this evening. We have explosions in Ivano-Frankivsk also reported. So we have explosions reported in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have now 10 regions which are reporting explosions to have occurred. Again, we are waiting to get more concrete information here on if these are air defenses, intercepting missiles, if those are the explosions being heard, or if we're possibly seeing missiles that have broken through the air defenses here. Again, there was that report we just heard of a few moments ago that said missiles are possibly bypassing Ukrainian air defenses by flying through Moldovan airspace, according to some Ukrainian sources. But we have to wait to get confirmation on that. But as you can see here, many different explosions have been reported in many different regions of Ukraine here. Miss Tiger Eye says, of course this would happen while Nemico is live. Going to be a long night, exactly. So I originally had a lot of other stories which I was planning to mainly focus on during this initial opening of the stream. But as soon as I went on the air, I saw the alert map just light up all red. We had heard some reports that there was some activity going on. And then, all of a sudden we have this now. And it's beginning to develop as I'm bringing you this report live. I'm going to continue to So explosions reported, in Mykolaiv. So Mykolaiv, Dnipro, Zaporizhia, Kharkiv City, Kharkiv Oblast, Poltava, Kiev, Vinnytsia, Zhytomyr, Kalaminsky, Ternopil, Ivano-Frankivsk, and Lviv. So many different areas here. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the... Okay, so I believe we... Yes, we're still at the same amount here. So again, we're going to keep our eye on these reports of these explosions coming in here. For now, we'll head back over to... Actually, I guess we could just sit right here and I'll go through some of the other videos here, or other posts here. So we have a post that came to us from Cayuga earlier today. This came from OSINT Defender. It's a video that is reportedly from today that shows Ukrainian forces utilizing the 00506 highway to the northwest of Bakhmut. This road was said to have been under Russian control as of a few days ago. However, it appears that at least the section near the city is passable again. If we head over to our battle map here, one second, I'll find it before we switch over there. Does it show me? Does it want to show me highway names? No, so I'm gonna have to go to the Universal Awareness map. I believe shows me highway names. Just really quick here, let me find that for you guys. Okay, so we'll look for it together here. Let's go over to the Universal Awareness map. Okay, so here we are here. All right, so we're looking for Highway 00506, and it's to the northwest of the city of Bakhmut. So I see here the 0513. We want the 0506. Northwest 0513. That's Highway 32. I'm not exactly sure where this highway is. I want to know where this highway is on the map. It's 0513. Yeah, I have it auto refreshing, so it's going to be... Okay, where is that? Oh, there we go. The MO3, there's the 0513. You know, I could Google Maps it. I think we're going to Google Maps. Oh, here we go. Here's the 0506. All right, so right here's the 0506 highway. This is to the north, the northwest of Bakhmut. So I believe the section they're speaking of is probably somewhere here in this corner. Somewhere along this stretch of highway. The Russians were holding it. Again, this video is reportedly from today that shows Ukrainian forces utilizing this highway to the northwest of Bakhmut. This road was said to have been under Russian control as of a few days ago. However, it appears that at least the section near the city is passable again. So that might be closer up to here, maybe. Very possible. All right, let's take a look at this video here. Okay, actually, really quickly before they do that, I know, again, I'm all over the place here tonight, but we have now reported explosions in Odessa. So that brings us up to 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait, hold on, I'm counting wrong here. Lviv. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Which one are we missing? Because if we have Odessa... Oh, Vinnytsia. See, that's Vinnytsia. So we also had Vinnytsia as well. I guess that has expired, I guess, is what they're saying here. Yeah, so we did have explosions in Venistia. Nothing in Cherkasy. Dnipro. Yeah, we had explosions reported in Dnipro as well. So I think we're up at like 12 different regions now with reported explosions this evening. All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Let's go back here. We're going to watch this video here. Get this audio on screen so you guys can hear. Hold on, I need to switch audio sources here. Okay, here we go. Take a look at this video here. So again, this apparently shows Ukrainian forces operating on that 0506 highway, which, from the looks of it, has been absolutely decimated. Looks to be a temporary bridge of some sort, maybe, or... Looks to be a APC there. Remains of one on the side of the road. So again, that video is from today, shows... Okay, actually, it's been geolocated. Yeah, I have geolocation data for that. So this is where that video took, where that video took place. So right almost to that curve. So if we go back to our map. Yeah, okay, so I see exactly where it is. So if I go back to our map that I was showing you a second ago, that video took place right here. I believe they were heading towards the city, if I'm not mistaken. So they were heading this way down the 0056. But, yeah, so that's where that's been geolocated to. Yeah, quickly, I have a birthday shout out to one of our Discord members that I want to do now so I don't forget it by the end of the show. Rakasan, happy birthday, man. Thank you so much. Miss Tiger Eye, thank you for reminding me. I would have forgotten about that, so I'll have to get a list together of birthday shout outs. We'll have to start doing that. All right, so back to our community aggregated reports here. I have an update here. This comes from directly from the Armed Forces of Ukraine. We have I believe, yeah, this is the summary here. Near the village of Mayorsk, the Ukrainian military conducted a successful assault operation against the Russian invaders. Soldiers of the 24th Mechanized Brigade showcased footage featuring combat work. The Ukrainian unit division group provided constant support with the drones that monitored the enemy's actions and dropped explosive devices on invaders. The video shows a successful attack by Ukrainian assault unit on the Russian positions in a forest. Let's go take a look at this video here. Without the music, so we don't get copyright strike there. So again, footage like this, you can really kind of get an idea of like just the sheer amount of destruction on the ground in some of these areas in the east of Ukraine. Not to mention, but the environment they're having to fight in the dead of winter here in Ukraine. Well, I guess we're spring now, but it doesn't look very spring-like on the ground there in Ukraine. So you can see kind of the World War I style trench systems, which they're utilizing here on both sides of the conflict. I've seen quite a few videos out of this area actually from the past few weeks. Some of the trench fighting that's happening in some of these areas, and it's pretty intense stuff. to watch. Basically, yeah, very reminiscent of scenes out of World War I or World War II. So again, this video again shows a successful attack by this Ukrainian assault unit on those Russian positions in what they call a forest, but I would hardly call this a forest anymore. It's been absolutely decimated. There's almost no trees left. You can see bullets ricocheting around these trenches here. I believe these are Russian positions you're seeing here, and the Ukrainian forces are in white, moving up on the Russian positions. See the footage here of them using some drones to drop some munitions here on those Russian trenches. You can see here damage to a Russian infantry fighting vehicle near that village of Mayorsk. This is a frame from that video that I was just showing you earlier. So again, this is where it took place here, geolocation-wise. We have a video here from Igor Gherkin on Twitter here. Translated, the tweet just says weather. So again, referring to the mud, the famous Ukrainian mud, which everybody's going to have to start dealing with here as the spring thaw begins to occur. We have a video here again coming from Kayuka. This is from Flash on Twitter here. It says special agents of the State Security Service of Ukraine destroyed the Russian heavy flamethrower system, pronounced Sunstepek, with an FPV drone right at the moment of its salvo. This was reported by the SSU press service. Let's take a look at this video here without the audio so we don't get copyright strike. Here we go. So again, this is from a first-person drone here, suicide drone. I like how they kind of followed the smoke in. So you can see right there. So the unit fired its salvo of rockets, but the victory for them was short-lived here as the drone comes in. I like how they kind of follow the smoke in from behind to kind of sneak up on them. And there it striked its target. Very interesting video there. We have an update here coming from the Ministry of Defense for the UK. This is the latest defense intelligence update on the situation in Ukraine for the 8th of March. Let's take a look. On the 4th of March, 2023, the Russian Ministry of Defense released a video of a rare visit to Ukraine by Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. This is a realistic possibility that this was partially in response to recent footage of the owner of Wagner Group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, visiting his fighters on the front line. Wagner is in a high-profile dispute with the Russian Ministry of Defense, and Shoigu is likely sensitive to being compared to Prigozhin. The only deployed Russian field commander shown in the video was Colonel General Rustam Muradov. It is notable that Muradov is responsible for the Volodar sector of the Donetsk Oblast, where several assaults have failed in the last 3 months. Until recently, the Russian command likely saw a breakthrough at Volodar as a key way to achieve an operationally significant breakthrough in Ukraine's lines. Russian planners are likely facing the dilemma of attempting another Volodar assault or supporting intense fighting further north near Bakhmut and Kremenina. Post here coming from Politico. Talked about the U.S. military eyes mounting Western air-to-air missiles on Ukrainian MiGs. Says here the U.S. military is studying whether it's possible to integrate advanced Western air-to-air missiles with Ukraine's Soviet-era fighter jets in the latest attempt to jury-rig old platforms with new capabilities ahead of what's expected to be a bloody spring. Officials are looking into whether AIM-120 advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles designed to be fired from Western fighter jets, such as U.S.-made F-16s, can be mounted on Ukraine's existing MiGs, according to two Defense Department officials and another person involved in these discussions. Post here from France 24 talks a little bit about Bakhmut. This was posted by Kayuka, I believe. Yep, Kayuka. It says here, NATO Secretary General, Jens Stoltenberg warned Wednesday that the devastated eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut may fall into Russian hands in the coming days after months of intense fighting. Goes into talk a little bit about the McCarthy stuff here in this article, but I'll talk about that more later. I have some articles that I'll show of my own there for that. So earlier in the war, a lot of, especially the early days of the invasion, all of the Russian military vehicles had different markings. We were always talking about what these markings meant, and kind of just showing the different ones on different vehicles. We have a article here coming from Ukrainoform. It talks about in Mariupol, Russians start using new markings on military hardware. In the temporarily occupied city of Mariupol, Russian invaders are now using the new markings on their military equipment, a triangle on top of an infamous Z. That's according to Petro Andrushenko, an advisor to the Mariupol mayor in exile. Ukrainoform reports referring to the officials posting on Telegram containing the relevant photos. We're spotting the use of new markings in the latest enemy convoys, a triangle on top of a Z. Prior to that, convoys had a V marking or no markings at all. The circle in the triangle has not been observed since early winter. So they're using these new you can see here on screen the marking itself in question. It's basically just the typical Z. In fact, you can see the square underneath it. They had a Z within a square. Now it's the triangle, Z with a triangle. As reported earlier, the invaders are turning Mariupol and the surrounding villages into a military logistics hub for the Russian army. Since February 20th, there have been frequent explosions in the city. According to eyewitness reports, enemy ammunition depots and military hardware were hit in a series of strikes. These explosions prove that enemy targets in the area are no longer beyond the reach of Ukraine's defense forces, despite a significant range to the front line. In Mariupol and outside the city, the invaders have established checkpoints and all bridges and entrenching and planting mines across the area. We'll now go ahead and get into some open source intelligence data for Ukraine here. You can see some of those reports of explosions have expired here on the map. You can see here we have Kharkiv region as well, reports of explosion. That's 419, so just a few moments ago that came in. What I'll do in here now, actually, really quickly, I'm going to get a, I'll do a search real quick and just see if there's any new reports on those strikes coming in. I'm seeing a few here, but I think we're going to have to wait to see. We're going to have to wait to get more information, I'm pretty sure here. I might be able to find it. So, yeah, I'm not seeing too much so far. I mean, I'm seeing the sporadic tweets and Telegram posts coming in, but we don't have any concrete confirmed data yet to go through. Actually, I take that back. I have a few different things here. TB Sato posted in the Situation Room said this is from an official telegram post, I believe. It says, attention residents of Odessa, as a result of the massive missile strike, missiles hit the energy infrastructure of the region as well as damaged residential buildings. Fortunately, there were no casualties. Power supply restrictions are currently in effect. According to the results of the anti-aircraft defense units, missiles have been shot down. Combat work continues. The second wave is expected right now, so I asked residents of the region to stay in shelter. So they're expecting a second wave of missiles there. We have a post here. Let's head over to our main screen here. Okay. Here we go. This comes from Melinda on Twitter. It says, as a result of the missile strike, the object of the energy infrastructure of the region was hit. Residential buildings were also damaged. There are no casualties, but there are downed missiles. This was reported by Maxim Marchenko from the Odessa OVA. Electricity supply restrictions apply in the region. A second wave of missiles is expected, so people should stay in shelters, it says. Go ahead here. We have from OSINT Defender. We have a post here. Shahed 136 drones are also being reported over the Kyiv region. They are really throwing everything they got right now. So apparently there is a lot of activity at this hour here in Ukraine. This is 1 minute ago. The fire in Kharkiv appears to be quite significant. So there's a fire burning in Kharkiv at this hour. Again, probably related to the strike, which has just occurred there. Again, many different regions under attack, significant air attack, I should say, as I'm bringing you this report tonight. 5 minutes ago, more explosions are now being reported in Kharkiv. If we go over to our alert map here quickly, I can show you on the alert map. You can see here in Kharkiv City and Kharkiv region both reporting explosions. Zaporizhia reported explosions. Dnipro reported explosions. Odessa, multiple explosions. Vinnytsia explosions. None in Cherkasy. Poltava had explosions. Kyiv had explosions. None in Kyiv City. Zhytomyr had explosions. Kelyminsky had explosions. Ternopil had explosions. Lviv had explosions. Ivano-Frankivsk had explosions. I think that's about it. Yeah, I don't see too many. Poltava, I don't know if I mentioned that one. Oh yeah, Mykolaiv as well. Kherson, nothing much in Kherson so far. This post coming from Rakasan on the Situation Room. Thank you so much for this, Rakasan. Says, this is from Euromaidan Press. Says Odessa Oblast head Marchenko says, in the massive attack, missiles hit a power facility, residential houses in the Oblast. No injuries. Power supply restrictions are in effect. Air defense down some missiles. Second wave of missiles is expected. So again, that's coming directly from the administration there in Odessa, which again is down here. We had 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 reports of explosions in Odessa. First one came in at 2:48 a.m. their time. Last one just came in at 4:07, so within the past 20 minutes. So multiple explosions. This is another one in Kharkiv, 419. So we have we have 2 in Kharkiv City, 1 in Kharkiv region. Yeah, Odessa had 4 separate reports of explosions. Zaporizhia had 1, but then 1 earlier today. Lviv just the 1. Vinnytsia had 2. 2 reports of explosions there. So again, we'll keep an eye on that. Let's go back to our main screen here. This is 10 minutes ago. Again, as a result of the massive missile attack, missiles hit the energy infrastructure in Odessa. So that's the same source that I just showed you. 11 minutes ago, power outages are being reported in some districts of Kharkiv right now, as likely as a result of the missile attacks. So it says here, and on Kharkiv, we only have So it only shows like 3 on here, but they say here in this post, Ukrainian sources report that around 10 explosions have been heard in Kharkiv so far. Parts of Kharkiv without power after these hits. Missiles impacts are being reported in Poltava, Ivano-Frankivsk, and Ternopil regions. Another wave of missiles over northwestern Ukraine heading towards the Kyiv region. That was 21 minutes ago. Air defense is reportedly active in Poltava region in eastern Ukraine 23 minutes ago. 24 minutes ago, explosions heard in Ivano-Frankivsk region near the border with Romania. Large fires seen burning on live stream near city of Kharkiv, most likely a result of Russian cruise missile strikes. You can see a picture of that fire burning there in the distance. Air defense 32 minutes ago active over Kyiv. Explosions heard in and over Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. So yeah, quite a bit of activity going at this moment. If I head over to, let's see here, do we have any updated reports? We don't have any updated reports on our live UA map, but we're going to switch over there nonetheless. I'm going to take you guys through the last about 12 hours of data here. Starting at 13 hours ago, President Zelensky met with United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the UN delegation to Kyiv today. I spoke a little bit about that earlier today. Skipping up to 2 hours ago, blackouts in several regions in preparation to possible missile attack to avoid damage to power infrastructure. So this is very interesting. 2 hours ago, the Ukrainians they had intel that this massive missile attack, which is occurring right now as I bring you this report, they had intel of these attacks somewhat, all right? In some capacity, they had intel that this was going to happen, and they put in place blackouts in several regions in preparation to possible missile attack to avoid damage to power infrastructure. Sorry, we're interrupted again, guys, by another explosion reported in Kyiv, okay? This is in Kyiv region, not in Kyiv city. It says media reports about explosions. Caution, it says. I have another report here coming from Rakasan. Thank you so much for tossing this my way, Rakasan. He posted this in the Situation Room if anybody wants to go look at this. This is breaking from Vyzgrad 24. A few minutes ago, Russia fired an additional wave of cruise missiles from the Black Sea over Moldovan airspace and towards cities in western Ukraine near the border with Poland. So, again, we were talking about that just a few moments ago. There was those reports that they were basically, what was the wording here? Let me look. The wording was missiles are bypassing Ukrainian air defense by flying through Moldovan airspace, according to Ukrainian sources. Now, if you look at this map here on screen, you can see those trajectories that those missiles apparently took over Moldovan airspace into western Ukraine. Again, it says here a few minutes ago, Russia fired an additional wave of cruise missiles from the Black Sea over Moldovan airspace and towards cities in western Ukraine near the border with Poland. So you can see 2 here came from the Black Sea, 1 from Russian territory possibly, and 1 from Crimea here. Interesting. Again, we'll have to wait to get more information on this, though. Again, to everybody just tuning in, we're still going through our Ukraine news, but we're covering this live attack by Russia, this air raid across all of Ukraine at this hour. What you're seeing on screen now is a map of air raid alerts across Ukraine. So this shows every oblast, every region of Ukraine on this map. And the ones all highlighted in red are currently under air raid alert. Keep in mind, Crimea, Donetsk, and Luhansk are mainly under Russian control. Again, this is Russia launching these attacks onto Ukraine at this hour. They're launching cruise missile attacks currently. So that's why you're seeing all of these highlighted in red, Luhansk and Crimea not highlighted in red. However, Donetsk is currently under a air raid alarm, I should mention. But we just had fresh explosions come through out of Kyiv region and Kharkiv region. So many different reports of these explosions occurring. Again, we're still waiting to get more information, but so far tonight we've had explosions in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or sorry, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, because of the city as well, and 14 with Poltava. So 14 different regions of Ukraine reported explosions. All of the regions of Ukraine currently under air raid alert at this hour. Let's head back over to our live universal awareness map where I'll keep going through this update here. Again, 2 hours ago, Ukrainian intelligence had intel that these attacks were going to happen, apparently, and they initiated blackouts on the power infrastructure in certain regions, in several regions here, and what they said is preparation to possible missile attack to avoid damage to power infrastructure. You can see that here, posted 2 hours ago. Let's look at the source on this. Source came from Telegram here. 2 hours ago, air defense is active in Dnipro-Petrovsk region. 2 hours ago, air defense is active over Odessa region. So this attack has been ongoing for about 2 hours now. Keep in mind, we've been on the air for about an hour. Right as I came on to air, actually, we've been on the air for about an hour and a half, actually. So when I came on air, I was just seeing these reports starting to trickle in, and it has almost exponentially continued to increase here as we've been bringing you this report. 2 hours ago, explosions reported in Odessa, and 2 hours ago here again, explosions reported in Mykolaiv. So again, I expect all these posts here to the posts here on UA Map to increase in the coming half hour here. In the next about half hour to an hour, we'll see those posts increase as that information continues to trickle in. If any viewers are seeing any noteworthy Twitter or Telegram posts coming out about the explosions, about the situation on the ground there in Ukraine, by all means, share them in the Situation Room. I have it open on another monitor, and as I continue to bring you guys the live report tonight, if we get any information that's coming in, I'll put it up on screen. We'll show it. So just if you want to leave it over there in the Situation Room, I'll take a look at it. It's the easiest way for me just to bring that stuff up quickly for you guys. Again, right now, the two recent ones, Kyiv region, Kharkiv region. But again, all of these explosions that have happened across these 14, 15 different regions that I've just mentioned are, within the past 30 minutes to an hour, or maybe even stretching back to an hour and a half, 2 hours. So it's all still breaking news here. So from here, what we'll do is so we went through our live UA map. We went through our battle map with our deep... Actually, wait, there is another part of the battle map that I could show you guys here real quick. So this one was published 2 hours ago. This again shows, and I just kind of wanted to show a little bit more about the situation here in Bakhmut. So you can see, again, we have Wagner PMC forces stationed here around Bakhmut, Russian military forces stationed here as well. But you can see all these Ukrainian units here. Okay, what the Russians are trying to do right now is conduct that pincer movement. All right, they're trying to close the gap here. Trying to cut off reinforcements, supply lines into Bakhmut. This map, by the way, of the links to these, you can find a lot of the links to these in our open source intelligence tools channel over on the Discord server. I'll also be updating the list beneath the live streams and videos. I haven't gotten around to doing that yet, but I'm going to be updating all of the open source intelligence tools in those lists there. So we have the Luhansk axis, as they refer to it here. That's all of the encompassing all of the fighting here on, I would say, the north sector of the Eastern Front. That's a good way to put it here. So you have the Luhansk axis, the Donetsk axis here. Again, that's where we're seeing the heavy fighting in and around Advidka, and then even up into Bakhmut. You have the Crimean axis down here in the south. We've seen a little bit of fighting, but it's mostly artillery exchanges here. There are sabotage missions, etc. Small firefights breaking out. I shouldn't say small because some of them are quite large, and there's still casualties happening in those areas as well. The artillery in the south, is just like the rest of the country, almost nonstop every day. So they show quite a few other. So you have the Ukrainian Bakhmut presence is highlighted here. So these are the main Ukrainian units that are really doing the brunt of the fighting here in Bakhmut. And again, it's Russia's goal right now is to conduct that pincer movement, cut off those Ukrainian forces in and around Bakhmut. That's basically the primary. I would say that's the most important news here off the front is the situation around Bakhmut. That's kind of the main focus for everyone right now is what is occurring there in the east of the country, or more specifically in and around Bakhmut. I shouldn't say the east of the country because there's a lot of fighting happening from the north border all the way down to the south of the country. So from there, I think what we'll do is we'll hop over into our aircraft map. We'll take a look at what those two aircraft are doing this evening. In fact, so earlier when I was just starting the stream, we took a look at our aircraft radar here. And the most tracked flight for this evening was Nova 61. That's what it was. There are now two military aircraft in the sky in that area. We have Hobo 17 as well as Nova 61. So this is Hobo 17's flight path. Again, this is a KC-135T Stratotanker. What are the Stratotankers for? They are carrying fuel. They are up there in the air to support fighter aircraft and other aircraft, most definitely that Nova 61, which is a E-3B, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, E-3B Sentry. So this is a reconnaissance aircraft. No doubt that Stratotanker is there to support that E-3B as well as other possible escort aircraft that are there in support of the reconnaissance operation, which they are currently conducting. So again, for those that don't realize, this is right snug up against the border of Western Ukraine as well as Belarus. No doubt these aircraft are up in the air right now, monitoring the situation with this massive air attack that is ongoing that we've been covering here on the air this evening. Not only that, though, but we also have Forte 10 hanging out over the Black Sea here. No doubt Forte 10 was probably watching as those Russian forces launched that missile attack from the Black Sea. So I could say with some degree of confidence here that the U.S. had intel that this missile attack, which we are witnessing tonight, which again, cruise missiles, many different types of missiles here, which Russia is sending into Ukraine, and again, flying over Moldovan airspace, as I'll bring up here again on screen for you guys. So you see these trajectories. They've launched some of these missiles from the Black Sea this evening. No doubt Forte 10 here had eyes on that situation as it unfolded. I guess I can't move that out of the way. Oh, well. So if you have Forte 10 here watching the Russian element here in the Black Sea and around Crimea, you have Hobo 17 supporting Nova 61 here as they kind of watch what's going on here across Western Ukraine. No doubt they had probably some intel and possibly shared that intel with Ukraine prior to this attack, which would explain this post here on live UA map. Which is talking about blackouts in several regions in preparation for that possible missile attack. So they knew that this missile attack was coming. Probably the Ukrainians had intel. I would expect the Ukrainians to have intel on this, and the U.S. probably had intel, which they shared with the Ukrainians on this, and again, kind of push them towards these decisions to conduct these blackouts in preparation for this attack to help, avoid damage to some of that power infrastructure. Not too much going on in the naval side of things tonight. Pretty much business as usual. I shouldn't say as usual, but we haven't seen too much of a change here in the Black Sea with commercial traffic or military traffic for that matter. Just kind of the same old activity which we've seen from Russian naval forces and commercial aircraft in and around the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea. So it's been basically, since the start of the war, it's been business as usual, I should say. We haven't seen too many dramatic increases or decreases in vessel traffic, I should say, or any significant movements by those Russian naval forces. However, they are there. They are conducting maneuvers. I mean, as you've seen tonight, they launched those missiles over Moldovan airspace into the west of the country. So that, I mean, within itself is pretty significant. Again, we're going to have to wait to get more information on that. This is all coming in, fresh off the press. This is breaking news. And so we want to, wait to... Probably we won't get concrete information until 6 hours from now or into tomorrow even. So again, just kind of take everything that we're hearing tonight with a grain of salt. This is again an ongoing situation. It's a breaking news story tonight. This attack over Ukraine. So that about sums up Ukraine. Open source data and the community aggregated data. So we'll now start getting into some other topics here, but we are still watching the air raid. The air raid that is going on here in Ukraine. And if I have any other information posted here in the coming few minutes. In fact, just as I'm saying that, I found a post here. Somebody, Rakisan posted in the Situation Room. This comes from Flash on Twitter. It said, "Oh, this page is down." Okay. Well, I guess we can't show that to you at the moment. Let's see, will it load for us? Nope, it's not loading for us. Let's see if we can go right back to their Flash News Ukraine profile. No, we can't. There's a Twitter error. So we're unable to show you that post. I can read it for you, though. It says, in Kharkiv and the region, in Kharkiv city and the outlying region, the Russians struck more than 15 times. Previously, there was a hit in a private residential building, said the head of RMA, Oleg Sinigubov. Again, kind of a mouthful there to pronounce, but again, I can't bring you up that post on screen because apparently the web page is down, but I was able to read it off for you guys there. C1 Boomer had asked about the primary headline. So yeah, we're now the headline I had on screen this evening, which we still haven't even gotten a chance to get into because we've been talking about the air raid here. About the top spies, top U.S. spy officials, top U.S. intelligence officials saying Russia is boosting their nuclear capabilities. We'll talk about that here just in a moment. Let me get switched over to our main screen here, and we'll start going through some of that. Just a moment here. Okay. So, actually, I guess we could start with it. Why not, hey? I think that was the one. Okay, no. Okay, so this is the one. All right. So, again, post that came out today. This was reported pretty widely all day today. It says the U.S. intel chiefs warned Putin is expanding his nuclear weapons arsenal as the war in Ukraine drags on. It says here the warning from the nation's top spy masters come as Russia intensifies its now year-long fight in Ukraine, and as Putin threatens to withdraw from a key nuclear arms treaty. I should mention this is another nuclear arms treaty, not the Nuclear START treaty. This is a different nuclear arms treaty which he is now threatening to withdraw from. Putin, whose country boasts the largest arsenal of nuclear weapons, has previously rattled the nuclear saber on the heels of Ukrainian advances on the battlefield. Let's read a little bit here. Out of Washington, Russian President Vladimir Putin is likely to further upgrade the Kremlin's arsenal of long-range nuclear-capable missiles in order to deter Kyiv and its powerful Western allies, U.S. officials warned Wednesday. The warning from the nation's top spy masters come as Russia intensifies its now year-long fight in Ukraine and as Putin threatens to withdraw from a key nuclear arms treaty. Throughout its invasion of Ukraine, Moscow has continued to show that it views its nuclear capabilities as necessary for maintaining deterrence and achieving its goals in a potential conflict against the U.S. and NATO, and it seems its nuclear weapons arsenal as the ultimate guarantor of Russian Federation, the nation's top intelligence agency wrote in its annual threat report. The unclassified 35-page intelligence assessment adds that Moscow will become more dependent on nuclear weapons following significant battlefield losses and punishing rounds of sanctions that have crippled the Kremlin's ability to finance its war machine. A quote here, heavy losses to its ground forces and large-scale expenditures of precision-guided munitions during the conflict have degraded Moscow's ground and air-based conventional capabilities and increased its reliance on nuclear weapons, the intelligence community wrote. Joe Blowin Wind, thank you so much for the super chat. Says Bean Fund. I'll put that to good use, Joe Blowin. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. As always, good to have you. Just to clarify, so we had the whole report lined up this evening to talk about this exact article that I'm talking about now, as well as many others, but we got sidetracked by the very intense air attack that Ukraine has come under. Literally, as I went on the air tonight, all of a sudden, we started getting all these reports in of these air alerts. These air raid alerts and explosions being reported in Ukraine. In fact, if we just hop back over to our alert map, you can see on screen, the entire country of Ukraine right now is under an air alert. So people are sheltering in place right now. We have reports that they're preparing for a second wave of bombardment. As I'm talking to you right now, that there, it's possible there are Russian missiles flying inbound on Ukrainian targets. They're expecting a second wave of missile attacks here. Detrude, possible incoming bombers within the hour. I've heard all sorts of different reports this evening. In just the past 30 minutes here, I've just been bombarded by reports saying that they're expecting another wave of missile attack, Russian bombers, etc. And so we're keeping an eye on that pretty closely. And again, that's why we kind of got sidetracked from our primary headlines here this evening. So let's go back over to our main screen here. We'll continue reading this article here again about these top U.S. spies saying that Russia is boosting its nuclear capabilities. The West, meanwhile, has described Putin's threats of using nuclear weapons as, quote, irresponsible in an attempt to reassert Russia's dominance in the region. Last month, Putin upped the ante by announcing he would suspend participation in the New START Treaty, a crucial nuclear arms reduction agreement. The agreement is the sole arms control treaty in place between Washington and Moscow, following the former President Donald Trump's withdrawal from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, aka the INF Treaty. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken called Putin's decision, quote, deeply unfortunate and said the Biden administration remains ready to negotiate at any time with Russia, irrespective of anything else going on in the world. What's more, Avril Haines, director of the National Intelligence, told lawmakers on Wednesday that Russia's military is unlikely to make major territorial gains this year, which could represent an opportunity for additional nuclear threats. Putin will most likely calculate that time works in his favor, and that prolonging the war, including with potential pauses in the fighting, might be his best remaining pathway to eventually securing Russian strategic interests in Ukraine, even if it takes years, said Haines, who leads America's 18 intelligence agencies before the Senate Intelligence Committee. So again, that's what this main headline, which I've had plastered across the screen tonight, is referring to. Basically, to break it down in a nutshell, top U.S. intelligence officials, top U.S. spies, spy masters, as they've called them here, kind of a buzzword, really, but just intelligence officials here in the U.S. are saying that they have intel now that Russia is increasing its nuclear capabilities. They're building new nukes. They're increasing their readiness. They're making all sorts of moves to, again, boost their nuclear capabilities. Our next post here comes from the Washington Post. It says Ukraine briefing. Kyiv denies role in the Nord Stream blasts. NATO chief says Russia could soon take Bakhmut in the coming days. Ukrainian officials on Wednesday denied any role in September explosions that damaged the Nord Stream gas pipelines in the Baltic Sea, after Western diplomats and intelligence officials said they suspect pro-Ukrainian saboteurs may have been behind the blasts. Russian officials also dismissed the report, claiming without evidence that the United States was seeking to hide its own involvement in the attack. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said Moscow could soon take control of Bakhmut, the site of a bloody months-long battle between Russia and Ukrainian forces. Russia has, quote, suffered big losses, he told reporters Wednesday, but at the same time, we cannot rule out the Bakhmut may eventually fall in the coming days. Key developments here. There is still no forensic evidence from the Nord Stream blast site that concretely ties the sabotage to any country, officials said. However, a senior Western security official told the Washington Post that governments investigating the bombings uncovered evidence that pro-Ukrainian individuals or entities discussed the possibility of sabotaging the pipelines before the explosions in September. Germany's federal prosecutor said Wednesday that an investigation into items and traces recovered from a ship that may have been used in transporting the explosives is ongoing. Next post here, U.S. intel chiefs say China is likely to press Taiwan and seek to undercut the U.S. Again, now moving into some China, Taiwan, South Pacific news here. It says here, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, told Congress Wednesday that Chinese President Xi Jinping is likely to press Taiwan and try to undercut U.S. influence in the coming years as he begins a third term as president. While Beijing has stepped up its public criticism of the U.S., Haines told the Senate Intelligence Committee that the intelligence community assesses that China still believes it, quote, benefits most by preventing a spiraling of tensions and by preserving stability in its relationship with the United States. Haines and other top intelligence officials, CIA Director William Burns, FBI Director Christopher Wray, Defense Intelligence Agency Director Lieutenant General Scott Berrier, and NSA Director General Paul Nakasone, testified before the Senate Intelligence Committee Wednesday at the panel's annual Public Worldwide Threats hearing. Haines ticked through the global challenges the U.S. faces from China and Russia to Iran and North Korea, along with the risks related to cyber and technology, as well as authoritarian governments. China was among the top concerns for senators at the hearing, where Haines and other intelligence chiefs were pressed on everything from China's global ambitions to the risks of TikTok and the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic in Wuhan, China. Russia's war in Ukraine and Russian President Vladimir Putin's long-term intentions were another key issue, as Haines warned that Putin could be digging in for the long haul because the Russian military cannot make territorial gains. It says here, Russia probably does not want conflict with the U.S. and NATO, intel chief says. The U.S. intelligence community believes that Russia probably does not want a direct military conflict with the U.S. and NATO forces, but there is a potential for that to occur. According to the unclassified annual threat assessment report of the intelligence community issued on Wednesday that U.S. intelligence leaders testified about, quote, Russian leaders thus far have avoided taking actions that would broaden the Ukraine conflict beyond Ukraine's borders, but the risk for escalation remains significant, the report says. Now, I have some more details about that idea of escalation beyond Ukrainian borders that we'll talk about here later in the show. The Pentagon is accused of blocking effort to hand Russia war crimes evidence to the ICC. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, so I won't go into too much detail here. But the Pentagon has been accused of blocking the sharing of U.S. intelligence with the International Criminal Court, also known as the ICC, about Russian war crimes in Ukraine. The Biden White House and State Department have been a proponent of cooperation with the Hague-based ICC as a means of holding Russian forces accountable for widespread war crimes. But the Defense Department is firmly opposed on grounds the precedent would eventually be turned against U.S. soldiers. The U.S. intel community warns of complex threats from China, Russia, and North Korea. It says here the U.S. is expected to face a, quote, complex security environment and will need to work to confront two critical strategic challenges: rising powers like China seeking dominance in the global order, and challenges like climate change, which could intersect and intensify their national security implications, the U.S. intelligence community assessed. The Office of the Director of the National Intelligence on Wednesday released its 2023 annual threat assessment, which warned of threats against the U.S. posed by China, Russia, and North Korea and Iran. It also warned of global challenges like climate change and evolving technologies that could have the potential to disrupt traditional business and society while creating unprecedented vulnerabilities. A report here from the New Statesman. It says China is laying out a path to conflict with the U.S. Qin Gang, the foreign minister, has warned that the two powers are heading toward a confrontation that would risk, quote, the future of humanity. Out of Washington, D.C. here, Qin Gang, the new Chinese foreign minister, is not known for his civility, but his remarks on the sidelines of the country's annual parliamentary session on March 7th were particularly stark. During his first press conference since assuming the role in December, he warned that the U.S. and China were moving towards confrontation and that, quote, the future of humanity was at stake. Quote, if the United States does not hit the brakes and continues to speed down the wrong path, Quinn said, the countries were headed towards conflict and confrontation that would have catastrophic consequences. His words were carefully chosen. Joe Biden, the U.S. president, said during his State of the Union speech in February that he had made clear to Xi Jinping, his Chinese counterpart, that his country sought competition, not conflict, with China. Quinn hit back, said, but in fact, United States' so-called competition is total containment and suppression, a zero-sum game in which you die and I live. In an update about those Chinese spy balloons that we loved so much earlier back in February here, during the balloon mania, as we were calling it. We have an update on that spy balloon over Latin America that everybody had been asking me about. It does now look like China brought down that balloon after it crossed Latin America. Let's read a little bit about that here. It says China took down its own balloon after transiting Latin America around the same time an alleged spy balloon from Beijing was crossing the United States earlier this year. The head of the U.S. Northern Command revealed Wednesday, quote, what I understand is the People's Republic of China actually terminated that balloon in the Atlantic Ocean off the east coast of South America. General Glenn Van Herk told the U.S. Armed Services Committee lawmakers. U.S. Southern Command head General Laura Richardson, who spoke alongside Van Herk, confirmed the assessment. China last month acknowledged that it was the owner of a balloon spotted over Costa Rica, Nicaragua, northern Colombia, and Venezuela. Used for flight tests, the balloon had, quote, seriously deviated from its planned course by mistake due to weather conditions, Beijing claimed at the time. But it was not known until now what had eventually happened to the balloon. The incident came at the same time a similar high-altitude Chinese balloon was first detected floating eastward over Alaska on the 28th of January. The aerial object eventually traveled down across Canada and back into the U.S. airspace, spending time above sensitive missile sites in Montana before traveling over the U.S. southeast. So again, for those that had been asking about the Chinese spy balloon, the one that was the second one, I should say, that was over Latin America, it does look like the Chinese brought down that balloon. So earlier I mentioned about Kevin McCarthy and how he's been requested to meet with Zelensky in Ukraine. Well, he's also he's confirmed the U.S. meeting with the Taiwan president as well. It says here, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy confirmed plans to meet with Taiwan's president in the U.S. this year, but stressed that meeting doesn't preclude a trip to Taiwan later. Quote, that has nothing to do with my travel. If I would go to Taiwan, McCarthy told reporters Tuesday night when I asked about the meeting. The Financial Times on Monday first reported McCarthy's plans to meet in California with President Tsai Ing-wen rather than in Taipei, a trip that would have angered Beijing. China can't tell me where I can go. China can't tell me where I can't go, I think is what they meant to say there, McCarthy said. Last month, House Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Michael McCall said McCarthy would plan a trip to the island either later this year or next year, but such a visit was seen as setting up a potential confrontation similar to the one in August when former Speaker Nancy Pelosi's traveled to Taiwan. For those of you that remember when we covered Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, it was quite significant, and China was quite angry about that visit. The reason we're having the uptick of flights into Taiwan's air defense identification zone and naval vessels passing into their territorial waters, the reason we've had increases in that activity, I should say dramatic, quite significant increases in that activity, is directly due to those visits with Nancy Pelosi. They started right after. Shortly after those visits in August by Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker of the U.S. at the time, to Taiwan. Now, one would argue that if we do see this visit by McCarthy to Taiwan, actually going to Taipei to visit with Taiwanese officials, we will most likely, hear from China about it. China is definitely going to either make us, either they're going to increase their escalations. They're going to escalate, the tensions there, or they're going to, basically do what they did when Pelosi went over, which was come out with a bunch of harsh words, so to speak. But we'll definitely most likely see a combination of that and what we're seeing now, which is kind of an uptick in those activities, those aircraft activities by Chinese aircraft, PLA aircraft, and PLA Navy vessels in those territorial waters around Taiwan, which, again, that activity has significantly increased in recent days. Speaking of Taiwan news, Taiwan suspects Chinese ships have cut the island's internet cables. Says here, in the past month, bed and breakfast owner Chen Yu-lin had to tell his guests he couldn't provide them with the internet. Others living on Matsu, one of Taiwan's outlying islands closer to neighboring China, had to struggle with paying electricity bills, making a doctor's appointment, or receiving a package. For connecting to the outside world, Matsu's 14,000 residents rely on two submarine internet cables leading to Taiwan's main island. The National Communications Commission, citing the island's telecom service, blamed two Chinese ships for cutting the cables. It said a Chinese fishing vessel is suspected of severing the first cable some 50 kilometers, 31 miles out at sea. 6 days later, on February 8th, the Chinese cargo ship cut the second cable, the NCC had said. Speedy Squirrel, thank you so much for the super chat support there, man. Much appreciated, and it helps us out a lot here doing what we're doing with these reports. His super chat said, "End of the world taco fund." Thank you so much, Speedy Squirrel. I will definitely put that to good use. We'll get those tacos and we'll put them in the bunker for a rainy day. Again, thank you so much for the support there, Speedy Squirrel. It says here, Taiwan's government stopped short of calling it a deliberate act on the part of Beijing. However, there was no direct evidence to show the Chinese ships were responsible. The islanders, in the meantime, were forced to hook up to a limited internet via microwave radio transmission, a more mature technology, as backup. It means one could wait hours to send a text, calls would drop, and videos were unwatchable. Quote here saying, a lot of tourists would cancel their booking because there's no internet. Nowadays, the internet plays a very large role in people's lives, said Chen, who lives in Beigan, one of Matsu's main residential islands. Apart from disrupting lives, the loss of internet cable, seemingly innocuous, has huge implications for national security. As a full-scale invasion of Ukraine has shown, Russia has made taking out internet infrastructure one of the key parts of its strategy. Some experts suspect China may have cut the cables deliberately as part of its harassment on the self-ruled island it considers part of its territory to be reunited by force if necessary. China regularly sends warplanes and Navy ships toward Taiwan as part of tactics to intimidate the island's democratic government. Concerns about China's invasion and Taiwan's preparedness to withstand it have increased since the war in Ukraine has begun. I've talked about that many times, how Taiwan is not as prepared as we think it is, how Taiwan needs more funding, it needs more weapons, it needs more munitions, it needs more fighters for its military as well, more personnel for its military as well, arguably. In some North Korea news, tensions have been ratcheting up there on the Korean Peninsula over the past month or so here, quite significantly. And at times I've stayed away from reporting on North Korean news because there was so many other things going on in the world, between Ukraine, between China and Taiwan. But I think some of this activity has been pretty significant. So out of Seoul, South Korea. This comes from March 7th from Reuters. North Korea said any move to shoot down one of its test missiles would be considered a declaration of war and blamed a joint military exercise between the United States and South Korea for growing tensions. State media KCNA said on Tuesday. Again, for those that don't know, the U.S. has come out with statements saying, that they will shoot down any missiles that North Korea attempts to fire in the direction of Guam and some other outlying islands. Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of leader of Kim Jong-un, warned in a statement that Pyongyang would see it as, quote, a declaration of war if the U.S. took military action against the North strategic weapon tests. She also hinted that the North could fire more missiles into the Pacific Ocean. The United States and its allies have never shot down North Korean ballistic missiles, which are banned by the United Nations Security Council. But the question drew scrutiny since the North suggested it will fire more missiles over Japan. The Pacific Ocean, quote, does not belong to the dominion of the U.S. or Japan, Kim said. Analysts have said that if North Korea follows through on its threat to turn the Pacific Ocean into a firing range, that would allow the isolated and nuclear-armed state to make technical advances in addition to signaling its military resolve. In a separate statement, the chief of the foreign news section at North Korea's foreign ministry accused the U.S. of, quote, aggravating the situation by conducting a joint air drill with a B-52 bomber on Monday and planning U.S.-South Korea field exercises. Another post here from Yahoo News says Kim Jong-un's mysterious sister Kim Jo-young issued a rare public threat to the U.S. on her brother's behalf, hinting that she might be gaining influence in the country. This year, Kim Jong-un's sister threatened the U.S. against intercepting North Korean missile tests on Tuesday, which I just mentioned. Kim Yo-jong comments come as the U.S. and South Korea ramp up military combat drills. Miss Kim's presence in her brother's government is mysterious, but she may be gaining influence, it says here. According to a press release on Korean Central News Agency, Kim said the Pacific does, quote, not belong to the dominion of the U.S. or Japan. So again, that's what they are basically saying. The Pacific Ocean is not owned by the U.S. or Japan, and that they have a right to test their missiles there. In a post here from South China Morning Post, it says here North Korea warns of U.S. declaration of war if any missiles shot down. Again, kind of more of that same information, which I just showed you a moment ago. This was from earlier, talked about cruise missiles were now confirmed to have been launched from the Black Sea towards Ukraine. If we go back over to here to OSINT Defender. 4 minutes ago, explosions have been heard within the last few minutes in the Volyn and Rivne regions of northwestern Ukraine near the border with Belarus. So we have more explosions being reported. Let's head over to our map here. And actually, yeah, so we have confirmation of that as well. So if you go back to our air alert map here on screen in Rivne City, we have explosions reported. Volyn, nothing on map for Volyn yet. But Rivne, definitely explosions reported in Rivne, Kirovohrad, Dnipropetrovsk. Oh, and Sumy is joining in on the action now as well. Media reports about explosions there tonight as well. So we now have... Okay, so the Russians have launched missiles on almost... I should say... yeah, so let's say Volyn, Rivne. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So like 19, 20 different regions here tonight with explosions reported in those 19, 20 regions. So almost the entire country has come under actual bombardment from the Russian forces tonight. I would argue probably every region has seen some kind of missile enter its airspace this evening. But about 19 or 20 of these regions have had confirmed reports of explosions this evening. A post here coming from Yanni 0420. OSINT Defender reports now of missiles crossing over the Ukrainian-Russian border in the direction of Sumy. So that would explain Sumy's Sumy being on the air raid alert map here. Another report here says some reports of explosions in the city of Lutsk in the northwest of Ukraine. Most likely air defense is working in that region. So 9 minutes ago here, actually, from OSINT Defender, if we go back over to our main screen, it seems Forte 10 has decided to leave its rounds over the Black Sea after seeming to divert away from its regular path a few minutes ago. So let's take a look at Forte 10 now on our flight radar. Give me one moment here to get that up on screen. So Forte 10. Okay, so somebody said it. So it said here in the post has decided to leave its rounds. I don't think so, because as you see here, it is now turned back around. So the post I just read you guys a few moments ago about Forte 10 deciding to leave its rounds over the Black Sea, I would say that that is null and void now, because it looks like it's back into its holding pattern here. Random commercial aircraft there, but they are still in. They are still in the area here. You can see that diversion they were referring to here on screen. But they are still up in the airspace at this hour. Nova 61 and Hobo 17 still up in the air, doing their thing. No doubt they are keeping an eye on this developing situation this evening over Ukrainian airspace. Let's head back to our main screen here. Seems this isn't over yet. Posted 18 minutes ago by OSINT Defender here. Reports now of missiles crossing over Ukraine-Russian border in the direction of Sumy. So we know that there has been explosions reported there now. Somebody theorized here with the Forte 10. Oh, so U.S. Air Force RQ-4B Global Hawk Forte 10, which is currently over the Black Sea, is doing some really weird maneuvers, as they mentioned there. Somebody suspected maybe it could have lost its communication and got it back. It's programmed to fly south towards Turkey. If it loses comms, check the squawk if you see it happen again. Another post here coming in from Rakkasan. Actually, I think we had two there. Okay, so yeah, we do have another two here. So let's head back. Actually, wait, hold up. I have to. We'll open them in this. So we have a post here coming from Yanni 0420. Explosions are being reported in Lviv Oblast. And that has been confirmed by our air raid alert map. If we head back over to our alert map, we now have a fresh explosion in Lviv, as you can see here on screen. So that just came in. Media reports about explosions, caution. So this could be that second wave of missiles that we are seeing coming inbound here, ladies and gentlemen, this evening. Again, so that just came in. Explosions being reported in Lviv Oblast. Our next post here coming from Flash on Twitter. Explosions are heard in the Kijev region. Subscribers report. Previously, air defense work. We are waiting for official information. So more explosions being reported at this time in Kijev-Horad. Sorry, that one's a little bit hard to pronounce sometimes. So again, those posts coming from the Situation Room from Rakasan and Yanni over 20. Thank you guys so much for posting that information for us. Let's head back over to our main screen here. We'll continue going through the news here. So yeah, it looks like there was a pause in between volleys here of those missiles, but we're now seeing that kind of second wave coming through of missile attacks. In some news about Georgia, Georgia protests. Police push protesters back from Parliament. The crowds are angry at a controversial Russian-style law which would class non-government and media groups as, quote, foreign agents if they receive more than 20% of their funds from abroad. On Wednesday evening, police pushed back protesters who pulled down a metal barrier outside Parliament. The crowds were ordered to disperse, and some people have been injured. Pictures from Georgia TV showed hundreds of riot police on the streets late on Wednesday night, wearing helmets and holding shields. At least one police car has been overturned. Now, there was a live stream here, which when I came on the air was playing. I'll scroll back and show you guys some footage here from that live stream of just some of the chaos which was unfolding there with these protests. You can see fires were burning there in these cities. Again, this was a live stream that was occurring earlier, showing just some of the heated protests which were occurring there in Georgia. Police in riot gear pushing through some of these cities here. Again, that was from earlier tonight. Protesters and police clashed in Georgia for a second day over that foreign agents law. We have a video here coming from The Guardian. Let's go ahead and play that for you now.
გასაგებია. ანუ როგორც ხვდები ეს რკინის ჯებირზე ზემოქმედების შტაბ-შტილება თითქოს რაღაცა გასროლებია. თუმცა ჯერჯერობით რასაც უყურებთ, მხოლოდ წყლის ჭაულს იღებთ.
So again, you guys are seeing footage there of those protests in Georgia. Speaking of more Russian overreach here, tensions mounting in Moldova amid war in Ukraine. We have a video here from DW. Let's go ahead and take a look.
An hour's drive from Moldova's capital, Russian soldiers. They're here to keep frozen a conflict over who controls the other side of the river. Most of it. We're heading to Molovata, an enclave in the breakaway territory Transnistria, a strip of land on the border with Ukraine that claimed independence from the capital Chisinau in Moldova more than 30 years ago, and ever since has been backed up by Moscow.
Victor Timosh meets us at the village museum.
Victor and his friend are veterans of the Transnistrian War. They fought for the Moldovan government against separatists backed by Moscow. It ended more than 3 decades ago. But Victor says it changed everything.
Up until then, I was one person, and afterwards, I was a completely different one. I learned that life is short.
Victor is worried that Moscow's aggression against Ukraine might affect things here.
I hope this year that the whole world will defeat Putin, the Russians, and the army. And I hope that all these tanks and soldiers stationed here, including this ghost republic, will disappear.
The enclave feels vulnerable. It's Moldovan, but it is surrounded by Russian-controlled Transnistria, a complicated, unsteady situation. On the outskirts of the capital Chisinau, feelings are hotter. People wanting to protest against the Moldovan government are blocked by police. Anger at economic hardship is overlaid with fears President Maia Sandu could provoke Russia over Transnistria. The protests are organized by the pro-Russian Shore Party, and authorities seem nervous.
We are afraid that she will drag us into the war. Maia Sandu keeps talking about Transnistria, but we cannot talk about this while there is a war so close to us.
At the heart of the protest, hostility towards President Sandu is clear. People here are not worried about Russian aggression.
I've never been to Europe myself, but I've traveled to Russia, and I would say that in Russia, it's better because they don't try to harm us like the people in power do here.
The protests are funded and orchestrated by Russia with the help of local oligarchs, according to the government in Chisinau.
So there you have it. Again, growing tensions both in Georgia and in Moldova. I've been talking about the situation in Moldova, Transnistria since the start of the war, and how it's possible that things might eventually ratchet up in those regions. We're also seeing that kind of activity in Georgia here with that that Western agent law, so to speak, that's being put into place. So again, a lot of activity happening here this week, guys. A lot of news that we had this evening between the situation ongoing in Ukraine tonight and everything else that we had to cover tonight. There was quite a bit of news. 2 minutes ago, from OSINT Defender, power outages being reported in Lviv due to missile strikes. 5 minutes ago, multiple explosions in Lviv region. 9 minutes ago, okay, I have no clue what Forte 10 is doing anymore. Right after he had posted that Forte 10 had gone off station. But they're back on station. I can be sure of that. Show you guys on screen here. So this is Forte 10 at this very moment. Just doing its thing. Whatever that may be. We're still trying to figure that one out. Hobo 17 and Nova 61 are still online tonight. Forte 10 still on station as well. Hobo 17 and Nova 61 are staying quite close to each other. No doubt Hobo 17 is there to support any both Nova 61 and any escort aircraft that are there with it. We have another K-35R up in the air as well over Germany. So we'll have to keep an eye on the skies this evening. Forte 10 doing its thing, though. So now we're going to get into our Q&A for this evening, because that about wraps up our primary intel reports. But if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them in the live chat at this time. Super chats, highly appreciated, and those get priority. We also have the live chat poll. If you haven't already, go ahead and vote in the live chat poll for this evening. I'll go ahead and end that off here in just a minute. Leroy Jenkins, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Who was that just said a second ago? I think it was Patty. Oh, he retracted the message. Patty Wack said that I sounded different. I did actually start using a compressor for the mic, for my microphone, so I might sound a little bit cleaner. I should be sounding a little bit cleaner to you. Leroy Jacobs says Nemico is a deep fake. Maybe. You never know. with how AI is progressing nowadays. Me says, it'll be fine. 3 days of tacos in basement while fallout dissipates. Exactly. D-True says, anyways, Moldova might just let them in, to be honest. Shake the Hands asks Nemico, is there any intel that suggests Russia has either modified their nuclear arsenal to be compatible with Iranian/Chinese fissile material, or are using material stolen from Ukrainian nuclear power plants? I don't believe so. No, I don't believe so. At least there's not any evidence of that. We do know that they are increasing their nuclear capabilities, that they are building new nuclear capabilities. They're taking, they're increasing their ability to use hypersonic missiles for nuclear warhead delivery. I believe they're also looking to increase their stockpiles of tactical nuclear weapons as well. Rakusan says, Slava Ukraine, glory to Georgia. Riley Castle says, a lot of action on Flight Radar this week. Indeed, there has been quite a lot of action, especially today. There's been quite a lot going on. Leroy Jenkins says, Nemico, number 1, you are my dad. Number 2, when are we gonna die? Question mark. When are the nukes flying? We need to know. Those are the $1,000,000 questions, Leroy Jenkins, and unfortunately, I do not have answers for you on those. However, we hope that it never comes to that. Miss Tiger Eyes says, you sound cleaner, but you need some Pepsid. Yeah, so I'm drinking Canada Dry Cranberry Ginger Ale instead of root beer, and occasionally I gotta hold back the burps as I'm doing. I take a couple drinks of Canada Dry Ginger Ale, and then I gotta find a pause or something so I can so I can burp. Otherwise, I don't want to just like burp in your ear as I'm giving a live report. That would be kind of counterproductive. Trevor Harriot says, Nemico, bring back the news desk for breaking alerts. I might, in some capacity. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how things go here. Carol C, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Glad to have you. Doug Wilson says some Pepto-Bismol. Riley Castle says, hey, Nemico, anything on the activity in Kaliningrad while I eat my tacos? I know there's been some news there. I don't have anything to bring you on Kaliningrad tonight. However, I think I'm probably going to end up doing a kind of like a dedicated piece on Kaliningrad, Moldova, Georgia, some of the Baltic states in the coming weeks here. I'm going to do kind of like a dedicated video or even maybe a stream segment on one of our upcoming weekly intel reports, where we'll kind of hop into these outlying countries and some of the increasing tensions in some of these different territories. Patty Wax says I retracted it only because I thought it sounded weird. Well, it wasn't just you. The compressor, I did start using that new compressor, so I should sound cleaner. Patty Wack asks, Nemico, did you hear if Russia was under a red alert? This was mentioned during the stream, during my stream. So, no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure at this time if Russia proper if that's what you're referring to, if Russia proper is under an air raid alert at this time. I'm not sure, no. Did you hear if Russia was under a red alert? Well, if you're referring to an air raid alert, I'm not sure. I'm sure that some of their bordering regions would probably be put on under some kind of air alert during this type of attack. Maybe I don't know. Oh, he says. He says, Nemico, you didn't mention it. Red alert. It was mentioned in the chat the Russian men alert. Red alert. Yeah, I haven't heard anything on that yet, but if I find any information on that, I can bring that to you. Riley Castle says Nemico needs a Daddy Nemico shirt. Maybe, possibly. D. Trude says ASMR. Could start like I could start a war reporting ASMR where I just read the headlines in a very whispery voice, very very close to the microphone. Miss Tiger Eyes says, Nemico Network, let's talk about the Sign My Rocket and then back to the missile. So, yeah, we submitted the Sign My Rocket fundraiser earlier this week. And we are waiting on we're waiting on the video to get returned to us from the front line of the country, excuse me, which takes a little while. I'm not sure exactly how long it usually takes, but I also messaged them. And I was just kind of talking to the guys that run it a little bit and asking about, if we could like get the message. So we have the message written on the shell, but also we wanted to know if they would read the message from the shell, and they said they could do that, or they were going to yell Nemico Network when they fire the shell, I believe is what they had mentioned. So we're gonna have to wait and see how that video turns out. Again, from what I gathered, so every day is different from an artillery crew's perspective. On the ground in Ukraine, it's a very dynamic situation. Things are changing minute to minute, and sometimes it can be difficult for them. It's like they're not on like an exact schedule when it comes to producing those videos for the fundraiser. It's whenever they can get a chance to. So there is kind of some wait time on it, but also, as for like the quality of the video, how fast, like how well they show the message, etc. It all depends on, if they're in the middle of a serious situation on the ground there, how active the conflict is on any one given day, if they need to, shoot and then maneuver, to get out of the way of incoming Russian return fire. And so it's, as I said, they're in the middle of an ongoing battle on the ground, and so it's kind of a tricky fundraiser to do for them. It's a tricky thing to do for them to get all these videos produced for everybody that donates. But they've been able to, continuously pump these out, and we'll be getting ours soon. It's just a matter of time. Ryan, thank you so much for tuning in. Says Nemico, I appreciate the reporting. Please pray for our family in Odessa. I sure will, Ryan. I hope everybody is doing okay there in Odessa. Thank you for tuning in. Riley Castle says, I've seen shipment planes fly into Kaliningrad a couple days ago, and thank you for your intel. No problem, Riley. Thank you. Patty Whack says, don't forget to mention the Simon Rocket update. Just did that. Chris Strom says, what's your thoughts about China sending weapons to Russia? It's inevitable. I believe that will happen. And it'll... the distance they're willing to go to support Russia will probably begin to increase, I would imagine, and vice versa. You'll see Russia increasingly backing up China, and China increasingly backing up Russia. I do believe more weapon systems will begin to arrive from China to Russia, so they can to aid in the war in Ukraine there on the ground. I believe that their military relationship, their political relationship, is going to continue to increase. So Immense says, new to the channel, great show. Thank you so much, So Immense, for tuning in tonight. Glad to have you. Me Too says, any news on the Russian Northern Fleet that was near Norway? Well, there's been a lot of information of Russian vessels in many different parts of the globe. In the Atlantic, in the Pacific, in the Black Sea, in the Sea of Azov. Yeah, there's the Northern Fleet as well. There was also the nuclear capable. They've outfitted some of their fleets with nuclear weapons. That was a report I made a few weeks ago. So that's been in the news. Me says we have a couple of Russian guests here at work. They are both anti-war, but one is pro-Russia and the other hates Russia. That's very interesting dynamic. Patty Wax says Nemico, the red flag was from Detrude, and they just said it was false. Okay, so false alarm there on that one. Ms. Tiger says you got pictures from Dnipro. If you're referring to the strikes that have occurred there tonight, I don't have any images yet, but I know there's a few floating around from Kharkiv. Leroy Jenkins says, isn't North Korea sending a limited amount of troops to Ukraine in aid of Russia? I thought I had heard that somewhere. Yeah, I heard that they were sending some like military police, I believe, to some of the occupied territories. But again, I haven't had any further information on that. Ukton says Ukraine camps are going down due to the air raids. Yeah, I've heard I had a few people message me about that earlier as well. In fact, I have a screen with some cameras here, and a few of them look to have gone offline, yeah, as well over the course of this report. Ms. Targaray says, Nemico, I tagged you in the Situation Room. I'll take a look at that real quick. Oh, okay, here we go. Actually, really quickly before I show that, I'm going to show a few other things. So from Rakistan, we have this picture of some stuff burning here, a reported explosion and burning here in Kharkiv. You can see on screen here. So again, that's footage of a fire there burning in Kharkiv from the explosion there that happened earlier. Post from Pineapple here. Big contributor to the community. He posted this from Anonymous Operations on Twitter. It says, U.S. Air Force E-3G Sentry Airborne Early Warning and Control System, AWACS, is flying over southeastern Poland, heading for the Poland-Ukraine border in order to help Kyiv coordinate its defense, along with Ukrainian AN-124 Ruslan and a Stratotanker and E-3B Sentry. So we currently have an E-3G Sentry. Let's see if we could track that down on our radar. So we do have the one E3B, which is Nova 61. I don't have any call sign for the other one yet. Let's check ADSB. So you have empty call sign Stratotanker here. So far, I only have the E3B on screen and the two Stratotankers. Yeah, I don't have the E3G on screen yet, but it says here in this post that a U.S. Air Force E3G Sentry Airborne Early Warning and Control System is flying over southeastern Poland, heading for the Poland-Ukraine border in order to help Kyiv coordinate its defense, along with a Ukrainian AN-124 Ruslan and a U.S. Stratotanker and an E3B Sentry. It's very interesting. Post here coming from Rakistan. This comes from Mehmet, actually, on Twitter. It says, somewhere stray mopeds are trying to fly over towards the PPO of the Lviv region. So I'm not sure if he was making a joke there, if that was a translation breakdown. But it says, somewhere stray mopeds are trying to fly over, reports the PPO of the Lviv region. I believe he's referring to cruise missiles there, if I'm not mistaken. So that post came from our beloved Mehmet, aka Yoru, on his Twitter there. Another report here from Mehmet says explosions in Zhytomyr Oblast. See it marked out here on the screen. ME says our Russian guests are in the Great are in the great room right now, listening to the Russian version of Nemico right now. Is that me translated into Russian, or is there a Russian YouTuber is there a Russian streamer that does similar reports to what we do here? I'd be interested to know that. Doompie says, I think that's a Google Translate error. I hope it is. Either that or he might... Rakasat says mopeds, code word for drones. That could be. So Sin sent this over. So Nova 61 is the E3G, but it's marked as an E3B on flight radar. And in that post, they mentioned two separate. They mentioned an E3B and an E3G. I'm not sure if there's any. I imagine there's a difference between the two. Thank you, Sin, for posting that. Here is a photo of that fire burning over Dnipro. See that on screen here. Photo of that fire there. Again, that's over the Dnipro region. Here's a video coming from Twitter here. This also came from Mehmet. It says here, as a result of missile attacks on Odessa, the windows, walls, and ceilings of many houses were damaged. Let's take a look at this. So this is footage showing windows, showing windows broken and damage to walls and ceilings here in Odessa. Again, this came from Mehmet on Twitter. So after those strikes there. ME says, sounds just like Nemico, but in Russian. They are just as interested as us to hear the news from home and the war. I just refilled the fireplace and saw the war footage playing on their laptop. I'd love to see. See this Russian Nemico. Pretty cool. So somebody said the Forte 10 is getting closer to Russian territory. Let's take a look real quick. Oh yeah, it's definitely getting closer. It is on a little bit of a tangent here this evening. So I guess now would be a good time to end off tonight's live stream poll, everybody. So tonight's poll was how long until the Russians take the city of Bakhmut? How long do you think the Russians will take to take the city of Bakhmut? About 23% of you, let's go ahead and we'll end the poll here now. Uh, 23% of you said 1 to 3 days. 20% of you said 1 week. 14% of you said 2 weeks. And an overwhelming 41% of you said they will not take the city. So a majority, 41% of you think Russia will not be able to take that key city of Bakhmut. Very interesting poll results there. Again, thank you to everybody that voted in tonight's live stream poll. Much appreciated. Liam Harden says, Forte 10 heading for the ENE now, straight path. Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on... Forte 10. Definitely. It was weird. It looked like they were going off station, and then they just took a U-turn and made a beeline and are heading pretty far east right now. I think further east than we normally see them. Rakasan says, wonderful stream, Nemico. Good job. Thank you so much, Rakasan, for tuning in tonight. Hey, thank you for posting all of the intel reports that you tossed into the Situation Room as I was giving this report and kind of kept me updated and helped us keep updated. Thank you for those. To everybody that did that tonight, thank you guys so much for helping us keep up to date on what's going on with that ongoing air raid alert in Ukraine, that bombardment. I should not say air raid alert because it's an air raid. It's an actual air raid occurring in Ukraine tonight. And again, it was kind of a breaking story that I was trying to cope with as I was trying to bring you the reports that I had planned out for this evening. So we're kind of we're trying to juggle both of those, the breaking news and my pre-planned report. So Riley Castle says, good night, Nemico and Nemico Network. Thank you. See you again. Thank you so much, Riley Castle, for tuning in tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Vexing Code says, I want that denim shirt for my bunker wear. I think that would come in handy. Ms. Targaray says, in Kharkiv Oblast, 2 people were injured as a result of a rocket attack on a residential building. That is unfortunate. I bet in the coming hours we're going to hear a lot of information of injuries, possible casualties, and collateral damage here from this attack that Russia has undertaken tonight as we've brought you this live report. Ms. Targaray says, we definitely need a Daddy Nemico shirt. Well, maybe we'll look into that. Intuitive said Forte may be avoiding launching missiles. I don't think so, but they are heading to what looks to be to the east, southeast here. They might be doing kind of a turn here. They might be on a wide bank turn at this very moment in time. However, we'll have to wait and see. Something tells me that they are in the process of a turn here, but again, we'll have to wait and see what direction Forte decides to take. Roxanne says, agreed. Daddy Nemico with a P47 on the pocket of the shirt. We could do that. Gloria Chapman says, night, y'all. Well, thank you so much, Gloria, for tuning in tonight. Doug Wilson said, almost felt like the first night. Yeah, very, very eventful night tonight in Ukraine, and not just Ukraine, but across the globe. We've had a lot of news to bring you guys this evening. A very news-filled report this week for sure. Doompai says, Nemico, thanks for all the intel tonight. Thank you so much, Doompai, for tuning in. Kitty Gundy, Jessica Rodriguez, Miss Tiger Eye, Uktin. Thank you guys so much for stopping by this evening. If you guys haven't already, hit the like button. Again, best way to get the algorithm's attention. Hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to support the channel. It's also the only way to get access to our live chat, so, that kind of comes in handy sometimes. To everybody that supported us tonight with super chats, super thanks, super emoji, any of that sort of stuff, thank you guys so much. It means a lot. It's what keeps, what allows us to keep doing this for you guys. Again, it means a lot to me. If you guys haven't already, share the stream. If you like this content, share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues. It's important to keep people informed on what's going on in the world today. It's important to get this information out to more people. We'd like to hear from you. I read all of your comments, all of your emails, all of your messages. Let us know what you think by leaving a comment, by joining us in the live chat on the streams. For those of you that don't know, we do dual stream on both YouTube and Twitch. For those of you following along on Twitch this evening, thank you guys so much for stopping by. To anybody that subscribed over there on Twitch, thank you so much. To anybody that followed on Twitch, thank you so much. It means a lot. To all of my YouTube crowd, thank you guys so much for stopping by. We love you. We love having you here. Doug Wilson says those first 3 days were exciting. Nemico was online for like 3 days straight. Indeed, I pulled quite a few 48-hour streams. Annette, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Glad to have you. Nap Daily, thank you so much for tuning in. Lee, thank you so much for tuning in. Doug Wilson, Vexing Code. To all you guys, thank you so much for stopping by. If you haven't already, guys, join our Discord server. There's a link to that in the description below where you can join in on the community discussions and have an excellent resource of up-to-date information and news on what's going on in the world today and what's going on with Ukraine, etc. It's an excellent resource. There's a link to that in the description below. New live reports, guys, every weekday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. New videos on the channel every week. New shorts posted on the channel every week. Come join us on the Discord server every Saturday. A lot of the community members like to join in the voice chat there to have discussions about the war in Ukraine and about other global security threats. It does look like Forte 10, by the way, on our screen is doing a turn at the moment, so I'll keep an eye on him over the course of the night. Our 24/7 Miss Tiger Eye says, remember when Nemico had Appy Moo on a live call? Yes, good times, good times. Those first few months of the war were pretty eventful. A lot of friendships were made. Our community our community exploded. We made a lot of new friends back in those days. Jacob Ender says, rockets falling in Kyiv now. The rockets falling across all of Ukraine this evening. What was I saying? There was something I was about to say, though. Oh, yeah. So new live reports every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. New videos every week. New shorts every week. And then also we have the 24/7 intel streams that go up for like the Ukraine war or for different situations, like the invasion of Taiwan. For the Chinese spy balloons, we had a 24/7 intel stream. For the UFO incident, the United States UFO incident, air quotes, we had kind of an intel stream for that. I do occasionally put up those 24/7 intel streams, so watch for those. I might be putting one up this evening or possibly tomorrow to track this ongoing situation around Bakhmut and some of the again the ongoing conflict in Ukraine there. So keep an eye out for that 24/7 intel stream. I think that about sums it up, if I'm not mistaken. Again, to everybody that stopped by this evening, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We had a great night here, guys. There was a lot of information I had to bring to you. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell, guys. Make sure you get notified. Always hit that notification bell. Hit the all selection under that notification bell. Hit the like button. Share the stream with your friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, guys. Doompie, actually, really quickly, Doompie asked for an update on the Ohio train crash. I'll be bringing you guys an update on the train crash with next week's report. Until then, guys, you have been watching Nemico Network.
Something that will change our daily lives, that will change history, 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 that will change history. That will be the most beautiful day.
Let me